person gets a different voter access card, right? All right.
It takes a minute.
Loading base. All right, start. I'm voting for George Washington. Okay, cast ballot.
There you go.
Okay.
All right. Now I'm going to cast a third vote, also for George Washington.
All right. Well, we're going to watch just to make sure.
All right. Watch very carefully.
Loading ballot. You're starting. You're voting for George Washington. Okay, good enough. And then you cast your ballot.
So there should be 3 votes for George Washington. What are we going to see?
But because you have infected this machine with a virus, perhaps George Washington will not be the winner.
That's right.
15 years.
All right, so now you're putting in the supervisor card.
Now it's the end of election day.
Time to count the votes.
We're going to count the votes.
Yep.
All right, very good.
So I stick this in.
Yeah.
And it takes a minute. I need to put in the highly secret pin, 1111.
Okay, there you go.
I think you just accidentally said that out loud. Okay.
Okay, ballot station.
Not secret anymore. I'm going to end the election.
Okay.
And that's okay with me.
Yep.
Okay.
And now I'm going to print the results on this printer.
Okay, quickly, very quickly.
Yes. And the results will come out. So here's what happened.
Yeah.
Inside the machine, it was keeping an electronic record of every vote.
Right.
3 votes for George. But the computer virus went and switched the votes inside the computer's memory.
All right.
And when you see this result, what you see, look at the tape right here.
Hold it right there, very carefully.
1 vote for George Washington and 2 for Benedict.
So you're saying that hackers would have had to have done this before people voted. They would have had to have infected it with a virus, and then it skews the results.
Before election day?
Oh, my goodness.
Anytime before election day.
Ed Felton, professor of computer science at Princeton, we thank you very much. By the way, when we come back, we're going to read the statement from Diebold. They say, the maker of this, they say, flawed information.
You saw it working.
And we...
They have figured it out where they have had this machine for 15 years. For the last 4 years, almost 5 years, they've been telling me that they are going to get new machines. And they have known that video was produced 9 years ago. So for 9 years, the state of Kansas has, or should have known, that their machines were easy to rig. All they have to do is place in a special code, virus, I don't know what you want to call it, malware, whatever, onto the memory cards so that the machine will tell you that you're voting for, say, Donald Trump. You'll be real happy, feel like you've done your civic duty, but when at the end of the day, when they take out that tape like they did in the video, then it will actually have been given, the vote would have been given to Hillary. Now, how do they get these viruses, malware, whatever it is, onto these memory cards? Well, let me show you. There is this place called EAC. This, I want to show you. This was supposed to, House panel votes to close Election Assistance Commission. And this happened on February 7th. So one of the first things that Donald Trump did was he must have, or somebody in his organization must realize that this is where they take him. Because I went and I do my due diligence. I don't just get stuff off the internet. I actually go out and interview people. I have been interviewing people rather regularly, election directors at different county elections, 4 of them in the state of Oregon, and this one, the Johnson County one, in the state of Kansas. And so I've learned how the system works. I compiled so much information that I sued the Secretary of State of Oregon to ensure that we would have a fair election in Oregon in 2012. Unfortunately, they sent 3 taxpayer-paid lawyers to fight us on simply asking that the Secretary of State be required to implement the law that was enacted by the duly elected state legislature. The crooked judge decided that the rules, the deep state rules of the Secretary of State's office overruled the rules that were put in by the state legislature, which was to get rid of all leftover unused ballots immediately after the election, so that you couldn't use the unused ballots, fill them out, and then justify the results that you reported on the news. Simple, obvious. And why would they send 3 lawyers? Why wouldn't they just, acquiesce and realize, oh, sorry, we were doing it? Well, it's because they can't rig the elections unless they keep the leftover unused ballots. Now, so I was so furious. There's just no way I was ever going to have an honest election there. Plus, my boys were living here and a lot of other reasons. I decided to move to the lovely state of Kansas, which I thought was and does have the best strongest champion for election integrity, Chris Kobach, who's now decided he wants to run for governor, which is great. But he's not going to win unless he takes a very strong look at this issue. This is really a problem. I have confronted him at a meeting and asked him about this and told him, that I'm in front of everybody. I said, you've had this system for 15 years. And everybody's known for 10 years, almost 10 years, that you can fix it easily, these machines. And every year they said they're going to replace them. Every year they don't replace them. So are they going to replace them? And I am absolutely 100% certain. Let me show you how it works. This EAC, let's see, where is the welcome? Okay, this is the EAC. So they said, you just saw the website or the article saying that Donald Trump got rid of Election Assistance Commission on February 7th. Does this look like somebody there's a blog. There's Mark Listis. He's posted this as of June 2nd. This guy's posted as of May 30th. If this has been disbanded, if this election assistance group has been disbanded, then there's a problem. There's a problem. It's not been disbanded. And when I called the county elections in Johnson County and said, well, you're not doing that anymore. You're not sending the memory cards. See, what they do is they send the memory cards back to this U.S. Election Assistance Commission, and then they have them certified, which means they have access to all the memory cards that go into each one of our machines in Johnson County and all over the entire country that use these machines. So they can implant the code into the memory cards specific to each one of the states, so that it delivers the results they want it to deliver when it's all tallied. But the people that are voting will think that their vote counted. It's not till the end of the day when they close down the machines and they spit the paper out and they take these memory cards to go be tallied at the county elections that they tell us the totals. And nobody's the wiser, because nobody knows what each person is voting. So everybody thinks they're in the minority. I guess not everybody voted the way I did. They did this, and I know for a fact they did this in the primary. And I'm fairly certain if they did it in the primary, I'm sure they wanted to do it in the general election. Johnson County is extremely conservative Republican. And yet Hillary Clinton came within something like 2 percentage points of winning in Johnson County. And won Kevin Yoder's district, when you include Wyandotte County and Miami County in there. Hillary won the Kansas 3rd Congressional District, which is the congressional district around Kansas City metropolitan area. Won it in the regular one. Okay, so here's how I know the primary was rigged. Now, I was supporting a guy really nice guy by the name of Colonel Greg Good. Well, retired Lieutenant Colonel Greg Good. He was so horrified at what an absolutely abysmal U.S. congressman for Kansas, doing such a terrible job, namely not supporting the right to a baby to live outside the confines of her mother's womb, that he decided to run. So I was helping him. So I was there on election night. So I'm keeping, and I saw these kind of shenanigans in Oregon, so I'm keeping very careful track. I had as soon as the Secretary of State and the Johnson County elections tally would change, I'd put the time and the number of votes for Yoder and the number of votes for Good. And I did that all throughout the evening. The local television stations reported 20 minutes before it showed that Kevin Yoder had won the election, showed that he had won with numbers that were nowhere to be found. Because they weren't coming off of the Secretary of State's website or Johnson County's website. They were making them up whole cloth. And then it took 40 minutes after that they finally caught up to where the news, TV news, was reporting the same numbers that were being reported by the Secretary of State's office and by Johnson County elections. Okay, that's number one reason why I think they fixed the primary. That's not the only reason, though. Also, because the county of Johnson County is so incredibly conservative, they know that they're not going to vote. There's more Republicans, registered Republicans, than there are Democrats. They knew that you're not going to get a Democrat elected, or have a very difficult time in certain districts. There's not going to get a Democrat elected. So they knew in order to get control of what's going on in our capital in Topeka, they needed to have liberal Democrats dress up like Republicans and run against the conservative Republican state legislators, incumbents. So every one of the Republican candidates that was running for re-election in the primary that had an opponent, every one of those opponents was a liberal Democrat pretending to be a Republican. And in every one of those races, the incumbent Republican lost. So now we have the oddest situation in Topeka. We have ostensibly the Republican-controlled state legislature, but we don't. Because every last one of these liberal Democrats who pretended to be Republicans so that they could take over the state legislature have been nonstop siding with the liberal Democrats in the state legislature. And proof is in the pudding. The tax cuts, which the vast majority of Kansans want tax cuts. They don't want tax increases. We've already taxed enough already. Thank you very much. In the words of the Tea Party movement, they actually overrode our conservative, pretty conservative. He's not perfect. Nobody's perfect. But anyway, Sam Brownback vetoed the tax increase, and they overrode his veto. How does a Republican-controlled state legislature overrule a Republican veto on a tax increase, and they're actually Republicans? So, again, everyone that had an opponent in the primary, every one of them that had an opponent in the primary, a Republican, all lost. They all lost to liberal Democrats. We know they're liberal Democrats because they voted with the Democrats. Trump, I beg you, Donald Trump, if you want to have fair elections and have a good chance of winning in 2020, and you have a good chance of getting people that actually support your agenda in this 2018 election, you need to do everything in your power to return us to the way our founding fathers wanted us to hold elections, which is all of them are on election day. If you can't make it and you've got proof that you're going to be out of town or out of the country, maybe you're in the military, something like that, it's the only way you can vote absentee. You should not be allowed to vote in advance of election day, nor should you be able to vote to register same day. And you have to show proof of citizenship. And when you do vote on election day, you vote on paper and you show your photo ID. That'll clean it all up. You have every one of the precinct workers. You have an even number of Democrats and Republicans at each precinct, and they are in charge of counting each precinct votes, paper ballots, and then delivering those results to the county elections so that if there is a problem, we have the paper ballots to go back and check. We need to get rid of all electronic voting machines because every electronic voting machine can be hacked. If there's a will, there's a way. We all know computers can be hacked. So we've got to go back old school, and then we'll have fair elections, and then there'll be one vote for one person who's alive, above the age of 18, is a U.S. citizen, and actually resides in the district in which they're voting. Thank you very much for your time. I'm Lisa Michaels, Live with Lisa Michaels show. Accountability, please follow me on Twitter, Conservative Lisa. My blog, conservativelisa.blogspot.com. And conservativecrew.blogspot.com.